8.1 that was budgeted for the tournament, the amount was $3 million less than the $8.1 million budgeted for the tournament. This statement tells us one thing. One, that the $14 million budget that the GFA prepared was kicked aside, or it was brought down to $8 million. This was the minister. This is the sports minister speaking. And he says out of the budgeted 8.1 million, Ghana spent $5.1 million. Okay? Now, according to the member of parliament, the ministry's prudent management of resources, that one will come to whether it was prudent or not. I'm reading the story as I see it. The ministry's prudent management of resources and negotiation of a qualification bonus resulted in the saved funds. On the floor of parliament on Tuesday, 21st December 2022, Mustafa Yusuf said, quote, "Our estimated budget at the group stage was $8.1 million. Ray, kindly check the budget or how much the original budget looked like for group stage. I'll use it for something. Out of the estimated budget, Mr. Speaker, our total expenditure for the group stage participation amounted to $5,171,840. These expenditures covered appearance fee, per diem, flight arrangements, medicals, equipment, logistics, and hospitality. Mr. Speaker, the reason for the surplus of $3 million after our exit from the group stage is the result of the ministry's prudent management of resources, as well as the ministry's decision to negotiate on qualification bonus for the next round instead of paying winning bonuses per match. What this means is that in spite of the Black Stars defeating South Korea in our second group match, we did not pay any winning bonus for that game. Ghana will get a total of $10.5 million for participating in the 2022 World Cup. $1.5 million has already been disbursed by FIFA for preparation of the senior national team. The remaining $9 million from FIFA is the prize money for exiting the group stage. Okay, then it goes on to provide numbers from previous years. We sent a budget of 16 million to the 2006 World Cup, which increased to 19, and then it dropped to 9 million for 2014. So 16 in 2006, 19 in 2010, 9 million in 2014. The country received $4.9 million, $11 million, and $8 million respectively for playing in the three tournaments, 2006, 2010, and 2014. So we have a few facts established. Fact number one, so the ministry revised that $14 million budget to $8.1 million. These are the words of the former sports minister. He says we spent $5.1 million, so we saved $3 million. But the question stands, so what exactly did we spend the $5.1 million on? He mentioned all kinds of things, logistics, blah, 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 blah. That's a huge figure. So how come the sports minister at the time never gave us a detailed budget so we would actually know how much we spent on some of the things that we don't quite understand? One, did we take 54 people to the World Cup in 2022? If we did, how much did we spend on them? In 2022, did Otuado have a PA at that World Cup? And how much was paid to that PA? How much was paid as per diem to the players? Because according to the sports minister, we didn't pay winning bonus. We were going to pay a qualification bonus, and we didn't pay it because we didn't qualify from the group stage. Granted. So how much was paid in terms of per diem? How much did we spend on flights? How much did we spend on accommodation? Because he mentions hospitality. Those are the bigger questions from this. So it is good that we have the proposed budget. It is great because it gets us to start a conversation. But ultimately, somebody will have to answer questions on how much we actually spent. If we say we spent $5.1 million, what did we spend the money on? What did we spend the money on? What did we spend the money on? We've mentioned all kinds of big things from this. And that's why I read the story as it is in its entirety, so that we can establish a few facts that there was a proposed budget, then there was an actual budget, but we still don't have an actual breakdown of the expenditure. And we had been calling for this for the longest of time. Since we came back from the World Cup in 2022, we still don't have details of how much we actually spent. And it's not only the World Cup. The last two AFCONs, even going back to Egypt in 2019. How much did we spend in Egypt in 2019? The former sports minister never told us. Mr. Isaac Esiama, Mustafa Yusuf didn't tell us how much we spent in Cameroon. He didn't tell us how much we actually spent in Cote d'Ivoire. We mentioned some number or some figure. And the 2022 World Cup has also come in. So the conversation should not focus on the proposed budget. Yeah, it was a proposed budget, but the sports minister says it was cut down. So how much did we actually spend at the World Cup? How much did we actually spend in Qatar? How much was spent on accommodation? Did we actually spend $7,000 flying players about? Because if the proposed budget was cut down from 14 to 8.1, it stands to reason that some of the items were either taken out or they were reduced. So what were the actuals? So I still want to go back to the former sports minister, and I'm urging the current sports minister, Mr. Kofi Adams, Honorable. Mr. Mustafa Yusuf is your colleague in parliament. You are the sports minister. You can use all tools available to get Mr. Mustafa Yusuf to give the country a proper breakdown of how much we actually spent in Qatar. That is what we need to know, because that is what will guide us as we want to go to the USA. Because you see, a lot of the ills or a lot of the ill feeling towards the national team is all down to money. Ghanaians are still traumatized by 2014 and the missteps we took as a country, flying money there. Do you know how embarrassing it was to be a Ghanaian at the time when your friends are calling you from all over the world, asking you what in God's name is happening? You are flying money all over the place and you are starring live on Brazil TV in Sao Paulo. They stopped showing telenovelas that night to see Ghana transport money all over the place. So the question, Ray is doing a John Boy impersonation. So the question we should ask is, how much did we spend in the World Cup or at the World Cup in Qatar 2022? Because all kinds of funny things happened there. The government ticket at the time paid for all kinds of characters. The government purse, it paid for all kinds of characters who were in Qatar, who were not football people. But they were there not on their own tab. And I can tell you, there are many people in Qatar who were there not on their own ticket. They were there on the largesse of the state. They were there, and I know people who were there on the largesse of the state, and I know people who saw other people who were there on the largesse of the state. So what we need to find out is how much we actually spent, and all these questions go back to the doorstep of Honorable Mustafa Yusuf, the former sports minister. He is the person who holds the key to this mystery of how much we spent as a country, because he himself, his own statement says the budget that the GFA brought, we revised it to $8.1 million. So what did it cover? He has said it in these big terms. He said appearance fee. So how much was the appearance fee? He said per diem. How much was the per diem? He said flight arrangements. How much did we spend? He said medicals. How much? And which medicals? Which medicals? Won't FIFA take care of the medicals? Ray, it's a FIFA organized competition, right?
Yeah.
So why are we spending money on medicals?
Maybe the pre-tournament.
Or pre-tournament, medicals. But FIFA gave $1.5 million or $1.4 million.
So they were going to pre-finance, possibly, before the FIFA money comes in.
So where did that money go?
They have to come and tell us.
You see? Equipment, logistics, and hospitality. So I think that whilst we may get really excited about the budget proposal, we should now start to ask the former sports minister a lot of tough questions. What were the actuals? What did we spend? How much did we spend? How much did we pay in terms of appearance fee? If we didn't pay a qualification bonus, what did we give the players? Did we give the players any money? So those are my questions for the morning. They are all directed to the former sports minister, Mustafa Isif. He holds the key to this mystery. He's the only person who can open the door for all of us to see what is in the room. Other than that, we are all left here with a budget proposal, which I think the statement from the sports minister kind of answers. I can say it answers that question. But in answering that question, there are more questions to answer. How many people made a delegation? Did you take 87 people? Did you take 54 people? Did Otuado have a PA? If he did we pay him? If yes, how much? So there are still outstanding questions. So that is what I'll say this morning concerning this World Cup budget episode and all of those things. There are more questions than answers. And the questions are critical questions that Honorable Mustafa Yusuf should answer. And Honorable Mr. Kofi Adams, we are pleading with you. We need answers to those questions. And we need them urgently so that as we start to think of World Cup 2026, Ghanaians will know how much we've spent in previous years. We are not a wealthy country. We are a very poor country. So we have to manage our resources and manage them well. My sermon is done.